Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do a little sketchbook tour of my Inktober 2025 sketchbook. And if you guys had seen me make all these drawings in my Inktober shorts, then still stick around because I'll be talking about some other things I didn't necessarily talk about in the original videos about each of these drawings. This is the same sketchbook I used in those videos, of course. It just looks a little bit different because I made this little canvas cover for it. I think it gives it a more professional feel. So yeah, let's get into it, and I hope you guys enjoy seeing the sketchbook. Day one, the prompt was mustache. I looked at the prompts a few days before the challenge began, just to get a sense of what I was going to be getting into and start thinking about what sort of things I want to draw. When I saw mustache, I knew I wanted to draw a hussar. I've always enjoyed drawing them. I have, similar Polish lancers. I already have a painting of them on my channel, and I really liked how that one turned out. So I'll definitely do more paintings of these guys in the future. I'm always up to draw one. Day two, the prompt was weave, and I knew I wanted to do a Celtic knot, so I was looking up all these sorts of designs for Celtic knots. I like this one because it was a perfect circle, and you've got all these things weaving in and out. And apparently it's called the Dara knot, and these symbolize like the roots of an oak tree all woven together, and stands for strength and stability. So I like the message of it just as much as the look. It's actually much harder to draw than you might think. I thought it was going to be easy to just, do straight lines, but you really have to think about how everything loops in and out and where you're going to leave these little white spaces to give that illusion. So it was really fun to draw. Day three, the prompt was king. Oh, sorry, not king, crown. And so I drew a king. And this was the first one where I was like, oh, I think it would be a good idea in a sketchbook to do all sorts of different styles. So I went for like a brush pen style. I didn't think it was going to turn out at first, but it actually ended up working. My goal with the drawing was to kind of like show, oh, he's got potential for evil, or he could be good. I want the two sides to be like I don't even know what he's from. I know there's this like Marvel villain or something like that called, or maybe he's from the DC comics, called Two-Face, and that's kind of what I was thinking as I was drawing this. Yeah, just to show those two sides of his, what he could potentially be, like maybe Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, something like that. Maybe that's reading too much into it, but that's kind of what I was going for. Day four, the prompt was murky. So I drew a swamp because it's got this murky water, and I was already kind of in a medieval mindset with the king, so I drew some like little fantasy style medieval travelers. I had a lot of fun doing little details like his basket here. My idea was they're looking for something, and maybe they're going through the water and they can't see it because it's so murky, and this guy just felt something slithered by his foot, so he's like, oh no, what just went by my foot? And he's trying to look down. So that's kind of the story that was in my mind, but I also really like the composition too. Got this nice V composition, and it's weighted on either side with the tree and then the root, and you've got these little birds in the negative space. It was just a great composition. I'm really proud of that. Then day five, the prompt was deer. Not one of my favorite drawings in this book. I don't enjoy drawing animals that much. I do like drawing horses and dogs and that sort of thing, but I usually like putting them with people. So yeah, I mean, it was a good drawing. It's just not usually the sort of thing I like to draw. I did debate on leaving the background white, but I decided to do this cross hatching just to experiment. I'm really not sure whether it helps or hinders the drawing. So it's something to think about, though. It's a nice little style. It was kind of inspired, this cross hatching in the back was inspired by this little basket I did for this guy. I was just going to do it on a larger scale. So not my favorite subject, but still a drawing that was fun to do. Day 6 was Pierce. This is probably my favorite drawing in the entire book. I just really like the scene, how he's been hit back by the arrow, and these guys are like, oh no, what are we gonna do? It makes you feel like I think it makes you feel like you're in the action. This guy's like asking you, are we gonna charge them? Are we gonna take the archers? I don't know. That's the idea I kind of had while I was drawing it. I wanted it to have this sort of like woodcut style as well. A lot of the drawings in this book have this woodcut style. It's very common in older dip pen and ink drawings. So yeah, I think this is my favorite drawing in the entire book. Day 7. This is symbolically looks very nice. It's, you know, the yin yang shown in koi fish. The prompt was starfish for this one, so I was like, I'll put stars and fish and have some fun with it, because I really didn't want to draw just a starfish. So yeah, I really want to make it stylistically impressive. So everything's very simple and clean, yet it stands out, like clear black versus white. Day 8, the prompt was reckless, and I was just gonna draw like one of those free solo climbers who climb without ropes. That was my original idea. I was just gonna draw him hanging off. It's like, that's a reckless thing to do. But after I had drawn the original little sketch, I thought, oh well, I have other medieval themed stuff in this book, so maybe we'll aim for a little bit of a medieval theme throughout. So I'll give him some, you know, medieval fantasy clothing. And then once I had that, it's like, well, he could be being traced by a dragon. That would be cool. And so then I put these little hills and the clouds to give it depth, and the whole drawing really filled out. This is not what I originally intended. It was just going to be a cliff and him hanging there. So then I was thinking, well, why is he being chased by a dragon? And I thought, well, maybe he's trying to raid the dragon's nest. Like, maybe dragon eggs are valuable and he's trying to steal one. So that's kind of the little story that goes with this drawing. Day 9, the prompt was heavy. So, you know, it's heavy to drag someone. This guy's dragging his buddy to safety. My favorite part of this entire drawing is the big cloud. It looks really nice. This is based on like the sort of way that Franklin Booth does clouds. He's a great ink artist from, you know, the late 19th, early 20th century. So yeah, the cloud really helps this one. This one, the prompt was sweep, so I did some soldiers sweeping for the enemy. This one doesn't have too much of a story. It's kind of self-explanatory right there, but the main goal of this one was just to, again, I was kind of looking at different Franklin Booth drawings, seeing how he did grass, how he did clouds, all that sort of thing, kind of trying to transfer it into my own ideas and a bit of my own style. So I think that turned out nicely. I really like the composition, 1, 2, 3 moving forward. Day 11, prompt was Sting, so I drew Sting from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. This is the only reference to any sort of pop culture I have in the sketchbook. I tried to stay away from that sort of thing, but yeah, I like how swords look, and this was too good of an opportunity to waste. Day 12, the prompt was shred it. So I was thinking like how skateboarders can shred. I've never drawn a skateboarder before. I usually stay kind of farther away from modern day subjects, but I thought it would be fun to kind of stretch my boundaries a little bit in this challenge. So I was like, I'll draw a skateboarder. I think he turned out all right. The cool thing about this drawing is I was just going to draw the skateboarder like that, but as you can see, if he doesn't have that background there, it looks like he's going to fall off onto this page. So then I was like, oh, he needs to be weighted. So I just drew this black square and then put my initials in graffiti, you know, to fit with the style. But I think he turned out very nicely. Day 13, the prompt was drink. So I drew some cowboys drinking. This guy, he's got his gun down there. if he loses his hand, he's probably gonna shoot the other guy who doesn't even know what's coming. So maybe that's why you don't drink when you play cards. Day 14, the prompt was trunk. So I drew a tree trunk, and I thought I'd put a want it poster on it, and then I was just gonna have that originally, but I thought it was a bit boring, so I made it look like someone stuck this knife in there. I really learned a good lesson with this one. I originally had this little poster as white. This is pure white, didn't have all these lines on it, and that actually looked really nice, but I wanted it to look crumpled up like it's been there a while, so then I did all this cross hatching to make it look that way. And I did get that effect, but I feel like when it was just pure white, it looks so much better. Sometimes I think simple is just the better way to go, and that's the lesson I learned from this drawing. As you can see, I used the lesson I learned in this one. Instead of shading the cells, I just kept them pure white, which really makes it much more striking and clean. The prompt for this was ragged, so that's why all the cells have these little holes and everything in them, the ragged cells. There's a few in this book of these square illustrations, then with the subject in them, like it's a page out of a book. But for this one, I think this is the only one where I kind of broke the illusion and had, it kind of be breaking out of the frame, like it's coming out of the frame towards you. So I think that looked really nice. It has good little details, like this little whaleboat right there, and the anchor lines and everything. I always like drawing ships. I want to draw a lot more of those in the future, maybe paint a few too. This one was a lot of fun. The prompt for day 16 was blunder. So I was thinking, how you make a blunder in chess when you might use a high value piece to take something, and then you lose it to a low value piece. It wasn't the right move. So my idea was the rook was going to take the horse and then be taken by the pawn. But about halfway through the inking, I realized, oh wait, if the rook actually takes the horse here, the pawn can't get him. So I guess that was a bit of blunder on my part, but it still looks really nice in my opinion. So it was a lot of fun to draw. I made it look like I kind of want it to seem like the characters from Cuphead, that 1930s style animation. Kind of tried to make the rook look that way. I'm not sure if it completely hit the mark, but it does look funny. Day 17, the prompt was ornate. This one is the first one where I didn't make one of my own drawings. This is a master study. I was just going to do cathedral or something like that myself, but I had this book of old pen drawings, and I was looking through it for inspiration. I always like to look through that for the older styles, and I saw this and I was like, oh, I want to do a master study of it. It's so beautiful. So this was done by an Italian artist in the 1700s, I think. Very pretty. The prompt for this one was dill, so I thought you can get a dill at a store, So I drew this little weapons store. Really wanted to have a lot of depth and detail. Got all the swords back here and the bows and arrows and spear and shield. I think he's here cutting a new bow. That's my idea. The whole point of this was to make it like a little sketchy style on purpose. I didn't want it to be very detailed. My favorite part about this and this earlier drawing is both of them were done with marker. It was just a black marker, but when you apply water, it bleeds the ink in kind of a bluish tone. So I drew both of these drawings entirely with black marker, just line work, and then I went over it with a brush pen with just water and bled the ink out to get this nice blue. It's definitely a technique I want to experiment with in the future. At day 19, the prompt was Arctic. I didn't have much time on this day, so I kind of just rushed the drawing a little bit, and it's not really the Arctic, it's more like the American Midwest, I think. But it does have snow, so that counts for something. I had this idea of doing like each individual snowflake, and it would have this really great effect. I'm not sure it actually looks the way I intend it, but it does look interesting. I might try something again to that effect, but I might do like a more detailed background than just leave the snow as white. That could work maybe. Day 20, the prompt was rivals. I was originally going to do like a sword fight, some guys having a sword fight duel, but then I was like, what would be better if they were back to back? You're going to have the rivals, opposed to each other right in front of you. And so not just the fact that they're having a pistol duel, but also try to make them look distinctly different. And one have like a darker cape and one have a lighter cape, so you can tell they're opposites. My favorite part of this drawing actually is this just simple tree branch in the background. It really adds a sense of depth to the picture, and actually forces these guys more so to the front. Like if the tree branch wasn't there, I don't think it would look nearly as good as it does. So that's definitely a lesson to learn. Like it can be good to just put simple suggestions of things in the background to push your main subject forward. Day 21, the prompt was blast. So, kind of went back to that theme of historical conflicts. And drew a cannon in the Civil War. This was a nice little drawing. I think I would have done something different with this background here. My original goal was, just to do that, but I think it looks kind of flat. It doesn't look completely like a hill. So I think the lesson I learned with this one is maybe do a different direction of cross hatching to show like it's a hill and then it slopes down more. But I think when you look at the picture as a whole, you don't completely see that. I tried a new technique on these pine trees, and I think it turned out very well. People did like it in the video, in the original video. So I guess that says something. Day 22, the prompt was button. So I drew this button. It's from like the 1870s, 1880s, after the Civil War, in that period when the U.S. Army was mostly in the West, fighting against Indians. So it's similar to Civil War button, but it's a little bit different. I don't think it looks completely like a button. It looks a little bit like the U.S. seal. I think that's just because I didn't curve the lines that I brought across. I brought them across straight. But you can tell it's from the United States. Day 23, the prompt was Firefly. So I drew a Sherman Firefly tank. I've always liked these tanks. They look so cool. I based it on the tank from the movie Fury. That's actually, I found out when I thought it was a Firefly tank, but when I was researching, to do this drawing, I found out that the tank in Fury is not a Firefly. It's a different variant entirely, and you can tell that by the muzzle brake and everything. So I did draw a Firefly tank for this one, but I gave it the protective logs on the side like Fury has, and I did give it I tried to make it look really cool with this camouflage and stuff. So definitely one of my favorite drawings in the book. Day 24, the prompt was Rowdy. Had a lot of fun with this one, making that feeling of his motion in the dance. This is based on an old engraving from the 1800s, I think. I had seen, and I really liked it, so I wanted to kind of copy it and learn some of the techniques they were using. But yeah, I think it definitely has this nice sense of motion, like they're waltzing around and dancing. So I really liked how it turned out. This is day 25. The prompt was Inferno. So I was gonna have this guy walking right into an inferno, like he could care less. He's gonna go in there and save the world. So yeah, I just wanted him walking straight in, and I wanted that to be the main focus. That's why I left the sides black. But I did these little like rock rock highlights. I got inspired to do the fire this certain way because I'd seen another Inktober drawing. It was with the Notre Dame Cathedral burning, and they had done the fire like with these little white wisp coming off it. And I thought that was a really cool way to do the fire, so I did it in a similar manner in this drawing. Day 26, the prompt was puzzling. So I knew I wanted to do an optical illusion, and I knew I wanted to do this sort of like triangle optical illusion. When I looked up, I found out it's called the Penrose triangle. So I'd drawn it all out. I was just gonna, shade it in black and gray and white and just make that illusion. But I thought it just looked a bit boring, so I started to experiment with putting like flowers on one part of it, and it eventually just became like a mass of flowers and vines. So it's like someone cut this illusion out of shrubbery or something. That was my idea. Day 27, the prompt was onion. Lots of people in the comments of this video and my brother said I should have drawn Shrek. Like I said earlier, I was kind of trying to stay away from more pop culture things. I wanted to do more things that I was coming up with myself, not necessarily references to already established things. So with this one, even though it was just an onion, I really tried to go in with the shading and make it feel like an actual onion. The funniest thing, and this happened with the deer earlier too, is that like after I'd been drawing it for a while, I was like, is this really what an onion looks like? I didn't know it had these little sprouty things and the top was like that and everything. So it's kind of cool when you really study and draw something, you start to see it in a different light than you might have previously. Day 28, the prompt was skeletal. So I drew these little pirates, skeletal pirates. I always like skeleton pirates. I think I want to do a painting on them at some point. But I was like, well, these guys are having a good old time drinking. If they can keep the drink down, it probably just trickles out. But they're drinking and having a good time, even though they're dead. Day 29, the prompt was lesson. So take every opportunity I can to turn these prompts in a way that I can draw what I enjoy drawing. So I thought I was thinking of how like a drill sergeant could give his troops a lesson in formation or bearing or whatever. So some more little Napoleonic guys there. Not any particular regiment, just kind of generic. They're probably not historically accurate. Day 30, the prompt was vacant. And for this one, I looked at a lot of houses when I was looking at different pictures for inspiration. And I definitely after looking at all of them decided I want to make a Victorian mansion. So yeah, this is a Victorian mansion that I've kind of like destroyed and made look like it's deteriorating and falling apart. I kind of tried to give the entire drawing this feeling with the ink splatter and kind of the roughness of the wash to make it seem like the drawing's kind of disintegrating just as the mansion is. Day 31, the prompt was award, so I just said a big thank you to my subscribers. Sadly, you can't see it because I thought this sketchbook had 31 pages, but it only had 30. So I had to do this on the back of the cover of the sketchbook. And when I put this cover on, this new cover, it kind of, obscured it. So, but yeah, that's the Inktober 2025 sketchbook. If you enjoyed the flip through, please consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.